Welcome back to the Cantina. Please remember, tip the Wookiee bartenders 20%. No droids, bounty hunters, no Raylos. No Ray Nobodies. I am your scoundrel scheduler, your chaos coordinator, your Wookiee wrangler. You will tip the Wookiee bartenders 20% after or on the way out the door. And no Kyle Ron fans, no sequel trilogy fans. None of that. You're not allowed. No Soilo fans. Awful Aaron Reich would get the boot if he showed up here. Sorry, Destry. Spielberg. Want to talk a little bit about this story about Matt Smith. I'm not going to read it to you because I don't really feel like loading up the computer, but good morning, John 42. But what it did when he came out, I want to preface this with this. I don't think the guy would have said a word if things weren't changing at Lucasfilm. Obviously, there's something going on where decisions making the sequel trilogy are being called into question. And Smith was part, probably, of trying to fix what they broke. Okay? So, this is what is going on. He came on there, he talked about the character he was going to play. He didn't say they filmed anything, but I think they did. He didn't go that far. He said the character was transformative. I've been having discussions with other people, and they want it to be they think it's a young Palpatine, or, a clone of Palpatine. Neither of which were transformative. Neither of which were that big, that they would literally change the course of Star Wars forever. I mean, we've had Dark Empire, blah, 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 Story of Plagueis, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the link in the description, this is how I'm going to do this. Look at the link in the description, watch it, and listen to Palpatine's voice. My boy, long have I waited. And that transforms into Snoke. And then Vader. There's only one character in all of Star Wars that could do that. And if his survival would be transformative. His survival would have changed the course. And it's something George Lucas would come up with himself. This idea is not a Kathleen Kennedy idea, or God help us, a J.J. Abrams idea. Neither of which are familiar enough with the lore. Okay? The character that would be that transformative, that would literally change the course of Star Wars, is the son of Mortis. Now let's talk about Mortis. Who were they, the Mortis gods? They were, I believe, wills. And when the son and daughter got, the daughter being the embodiment of the light side and the true balance of the Force, and the son being the dark side, chaos, the father decided to take them to the planet of Mortis, where they lived as anchorites. That's the story. Who their mother is even more, holy shit. You get into the deep mythology of Star Wars, but she's really scary. She's a human female who fell in love with and married the father, and she was married to immortals, and as she got older and got old, they didn't change. The son and daughter grew to a certain age, and then they stayed that age. So she decided to go and take a bath in either the Pool of Wisdom or something like that, and she became this hideous, disfigured creature that is called the Aboleth. And she ended up being trapped in an area behind the Maw where she couldn't get out. And there's part of the EU that deals with her, And Luke actually goes and confronts her. Okay. Which is it's all very intriguing to me and very interesting. Anyway, let me go along. Transformative is not, like I said, a Palpatine clone. It is not young Palpatine. It's something that much bigger than Palpatine. Palpatine is part of the timeline. He is part of the Sith heritage, legacy. Okay. There's a part in the Mortis Arc where the son tells Anakin, "You speak of the light, dark and light, as if one cannot exist. One can exist without the other." And he says he is not a Sith. Oh no, Snoke wasn't transformative at all. He wasn't. He says he's not a Sith. He is beyond Sith. Okay. It's like when the father banished both the son and daughter and himself to Mortis, the planet, it is akin to God banishing Satan basically to the earth and into hell. Okay. And St. Michael driving him out. This is kind of what the father did for himself. Now, you gotta remember, in the Mortis Arc, the father sacrifices himself, kills himself, to take away power from the son. Okay. And then Anakin cuts him from behind. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right, John 42. So that gives, if he survived, and go and watch World Between Worlds, go watch it right after you watch this. When Ezra goes up and he puts his hand to shut the portal, and the son's hand is like this. Ezra puts his hand over it like that. The only character in that painting or frieze or fresco or whatever you want to call it that seems alive, that lights up, is the sun. His eyes turn red. And then the portal closes. And then everybody changes and the temple starts to implode and sink. So Filoni right there is giving us an idea of where they could take this. Okay. There's a reason why they call them the Mortis gods. It's not that they're fallen wills. All right. They became too powerful for this corporeal world. All right. Now, why would the son be part of this? Exact revenge on Skywalker for keeping him on Mortis. Okay. I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Exegol, which sounds like, that sounds like a cough syrup. The fuck kind of name is that? Was going to be anything but Mortis itself. Because I know for a fact from sources I trust that they had the Mortis throne built. All right. They had all that ready. And Kennedy lost her shit. And that, as they say, is that. Now we've got Matt Smith feeling safe enough to say, hey, I was going to play a transformative role in Star Wars. He actually showed up to the Rise of Skywalker premiere. And as the tweet there said, the execs felt that, and I've had other people say this, that the son, it does, actually, you're right, John, that the son was too esoteric and too out there for normies, the execs. Actually, no. Kennedy saw it and shit her pants. No Raylo. Nothing that her dumb mind could wrap around. Okay. What was that quote from Sam Elliott? If you make it good enough, the fans will come and the normies will follow. Yeah, but wasn't Biss the planet where the Biss species came from? The Bith species. I can't remember. I gotta look at my books. But this is typical of a Lucas idea because I'm gonna say this. If he was playing the son, I don't see J.J. Abrams being familiar enough with the lore to have tried to attempt it. I do see George Lucas saying, if you want a bad guy, you want a villain, and you want to make this really a thing, and you want to make everything make sense, the son of Mortis. I mean, first off, when you look at him, he just looks, he looks, I mean, he's perfect. There was a old school, or there was a photoshopped picture of Matt Smith done up as the son of Mortis. It was pretty wicked awesome. Okay, bald shaved head, the makeup, the red eyes, and I think he's like taking the lightsaber and doing this now with it. You gotta remember, when Anakin fires up his lightsaber in front of the father just does that. Okay, thanks. Well, actually, the Bithwer species and Darth, not Darth, Plagueis' master was a Bith. Plagueis' master was a Bith, if I remember right. Darth Tenebrius. But let's go on here. It would have made everything different to have an actual villain like that. It would have explained a lot. I mean, when you have the voice of Palpatine, my boy, long have I waited, blah, 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 I have been every voice you've ever heard inside your head. And it goes from Palpy to Snoke to Vader. All characters in the history of his life in some way that Darth Emo would have been familiar with. And the only character in Star Wars that was a shapeshifter that could do that was the son of Mortis. Okay? And it might be esoteric, but if they had done it good enough, the fans would have loved it. And they would have sold the shit out of those figures. They would have sold the shit out of them. I would have loved to have gotten, all of them. I would have gotten the son, the father, and the daughter. All right. That would have been a really cool thing to have. But we've got this garbage. It's let's bring back Palpatine. That's all they had. That is all Kennedy had. And I'm sure she didn't even really know what Palpatine was. Because again, she didn't care about Star Wars. I mean, the reason why she hung around, Lucasfilm as long as she did was for Indiana Jones 5. And now the release date's been set back. Why? And then we just got this in. This is a rumor. And the first filming date to start February of next year were the Acolyte. Then they moved to this coming summer. That's never going to see the light of day. They've moved everything back. Why? And why does Matt Smith now suddenly feel safe and brave enough to talk about Star Wars? Okay. And about Daisy Ridley. She actually is making another science fiction movie. All right. That Mind Hunter or whatever the fuck it was called. That's one, but she's making another one. All right. They just start talking about it. So her talking to Kennedy was and having lunch or whatever it was meaningless. Okay? Absolutely meaningless. And probably Daisy was like, can you help me with this? I want this job. Because, say it right now, Daisy couldn't find work. Couldn't find work at all. All right? So what does this all mean? It says a lot about the bullshit that went on behind the scenes while they were making The Rise of Skywalker. The fact that no one knew what the hell they were doing. And it adds fuel to the fire that Rian Johnson really left them in a cul-de-sac of bullshit by killing off Snoke. He really didn't. I mean, when you look, and if you're a sequel trilogy fan, and you like that, you really are a fucking moron. Okay? You really are a fucking moron. It would, I mean, when you just think about what they did to Snoke was such a bad move. It was such a terrible move. Literally the worst writing I have ever seen in my life. Why the fuck would you kill Snoke off? You know, I mean, words fail me to describe the stupidity behind that. Okay, they really do, because I'm like, and I remember watching it going, I was pissed off the entire time. All right, so you're gonna love this. I think there's a part where Dip-Dee-Doo shows up on Mustafar in The Rise of Skywalker, right? They had the son's chambers, hey Jonathan, not on Mortis. They had it on Mustafar. They built his throne room, they built a corridor, and something else. Okay, and they had to tear it all down. So really, he's actually almost taking on, and when you watch the Mortis Arc, he kind of takes on the persona of Lucifer. You know how they say, the devil will appear to you to be everything you ever wanted? Remember that? The devil will appear to you to be everything you ever wanted. And if you go into the Mortis Arc, I think it's season 4 of Clone Wars, the son appears to Anakin as Shmi Skywalker. He appears to Ahsoka as her adult form. He appears to Ahsoka again as a little blue guy that bites her. He's a shapeshifter. Okay, so that's another indication from just that piece I linked here that says the bad guy in The Rise of Skywalker was going to be someone that the fans were familiar with, that would connect the prequels to everything else. And the son wanting revenge on the Skywalker line would be a very good plot device. But again, there's only so much you can do, and then after a while you're like, fuck it, I don't care anymore with these people. And people just sit there and look at you like, well, George doesn't want anything to do with it. Translation, I am pushing myself onto George, and I don't want anything to do with it. What I heard, and now what Matt Smith kind of confirmed, was that George was asked to help. And it looks to me like he was the one that came up with the Mortis connection. Okay? Because that's him. That is his little fingerprints all over this. They put the assembly reel together. Kennedy has a shit fit. They tear everything down and go back and restart. George doesn't appear at the Rise of Skywalker premiere. Doesn't go to it. That is a legit fact. I watched the red carpets. I saw Harrison Ford arrive, Billy D. Williams, la la la. I did not see, and the media confirmed it, George does not go. And he went to every one of the other ones. Why? Okay, I don't need direct evidence to say something happened. And what the stories that we've heard about him being involved with JJ helping to fix what was broken are probably true in a way, in some way. All right. Then we get Spielberg walking away 2 months from Indy 5. Now I'm going to tell you guys this. The script that James Mangold was writing was not the script that they're going ahead with when Spielberg walked away. So it wasn't the script. All right. Bros before hoes. Okay. Kennedy screwed up and fucked around with George for the last time. And Spielberg had enough. Enough. Okay. That's the thing. And that's what I think started leading to, where we are now. And as far as Matt Smith, there's obviously something going on at Lucasfilm to make him say, I can say this now. And I'm going to say this. We've got the earnings call coming up on the 10th. And on the 12th, we got Disney Plus Day. And I'm going to say this right out. I don't expect to see her at all. All right, I don't expect to hear her mentioned at the earnings call unless someone specifically asks about her. Yeah, it was, Carla, it was. And don't expect to see her introduce any of the new stuff. Watch. It'll be Favreau and Filoni, probably Robert Rodriguez. They're the ones who are making this stuff. All right. If she does show up, then we have to be a little concerned. But I'm not sure how concerned. My thing is, if they do let her do this, it's going to piss everybody off. And they know that. People are like, Disney doesn't care. Yes, they do care. They care very much. Okay? There's a reason why the lady that's been doing PR for Lucasfilm is stepping down. And that the guy that they picked, it wasn't them that picked him. It was Disney that picked him. Is there, and we haven't heard bupkis from her side. And again, if she had actually signed the contract, and I agree with Cameron that I don't think anything that WDW Pro is talking about is true in the way he's talking about it. And because again, it's the level at which this is going on. She doesn't, and I'll tell you something else. She doesn't have to be president for this to go on. Yeah, Brian, I do. In fact, I know it was. That was a dagger of Mortis. And what they did was they used it. I mean, it is just, every time I think, this is the jaws of semi-victory. It would have been better. All right, and it makes Colin Trevorrow's script look stupid when you think about it. Because everything starts to make sense about everything that occurred. And the revenge on the Skywalker line. All right? For all we know, it was the son that was giving Anakin the visions. All right, of Padme dying and his mother. All right? It is very interesting because the son was the one that showed him his future. Remember? And the son isn't Sith. Okay? Kyle Ron isn't Sith. He's just a douchebag. My kingdom for someone to come up with a meme of Kyle Ron being force choked by Jason Solo. And In another one, Jaina doing Ridley or Ray in with their magenta lightsaber, you know, coming at her. And I mean, that would have been, you know, in her black TIE fighter get up. That would be so fucking cool. Anyway, but this, you know, the dagger of Mortis was in it, but they called it what, the seer? I mean, you know, the whole thing with somehow Palpatine returned. That is a direct piece of evidence that there was bullshit. They didn't know what to do. They took away the one villain that would have made sense. And that could have connected everything. They didn't want to. And here's another thing. Not yes, maybe it was Eastland. It was supposed to be it's the only dagger in Star Wars. Okay? The only one. When you think about it, and you think about the chances that they missed, the fact that I honestly think that part of this with Iger and Kennedy both is that they did not want anything to do with the Clone Wars or with the prequel era because they're so fucking stupid. They don't think that people want that. The filming got pushed back to next summer. Not a year. If it went back a year, I would say they've canceled it. All right. It's the only dagger in Star Wars, Eastland. But it doesn't mean they won't push it back again. I mean, it's not going to be made. But there's circumstances surrounding it, like the fact that Leslie Headland and Kathleen Kennedy are now on girl hate terms. And Headland's gone head to head with her, which is interesting to me. It really is interesting to me because if you think about it, that's how far Kennedy's cachet has fallen, if that's true. And I think it probably is. But anyway, listen, I'm going to go. This is a short one. I've got stuff to do. I got to fill the car up with gas. And I'll see you guys around the galaxy. Behave, be well. Something goes on today. It's Thursday. I will be back. Check out.